anyways, it says The Sims 4. And I sat here and edited that. That's so stupid. See, that's because of Twitch. So I've been doing The Sims 4 on Twitch. Stupid, don't do that. No, I said take that off. Done. It's not gonna let me. It's just gonna keep saying Sim 4. So, whatever. We'll deal with it. It's whatever. It's a minor hiccup compared to what we've had before. So, anyways, why we wait for some people to show up. I just want to thank everybody for joining me on the live Thrills and Chills. I seriously appreciate you coming and sharing your time with me. So I appreciate it. So today I really got to work on the stupid thing. I'm trying, not perfect. So I found a story on this Reddit. It was 11 of the scariest ghost stories from Reddit. But before I get into the story, well, one of 11 anyways, I'm going to do my honorary shot for my mom, and then we'll keep going. That's what we do. I gotta get my hair away from my face, though. It's bugging me. It's bugging. Oh, it smells so good. Oh, it does smell really good. All right, this one's for you, Mom. Ugh. I'm not doing no, I accidentally rejected the request for you. I'm doing good. How are you? I'm doing, that's good. I'm so sorry. I bailed the other day, but I had a couple of interviews and it's been busy. I've just been really busy trying to get a different job. So, you understand. So, yeah, because I really was looking forward to playing some GTA. Really want to play some GTA. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So, we are actually going to, very cool. I heard there's some kind of new car. I don't know. But anyways, let's get into some scary stories from Reddit that I found. So, let's get into it. It wasn't a little girl. I was camping with my husband and his family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 at the next campsite. It was nighttime, and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, and telling stories. When we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were attending to see a little girl and decided to search the area. We listened to the noises from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we all saw a very tall, pure white figure standing maybe 100 feet away from us, making noises. We all agreed this looked maybe 6 feet tall, skinny and white. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever we saw started backing off as we got closer, and it disappeared into the trees. We continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep all night long. That is insane. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Already. already off with a little girl. There's always little girls, right? And they say that they're demons. So anytime that you hear a story about a little girl, it's usually a demon disguised as a little girl trying to, you know, essentially steal our soul, whatever they're coming to do. All right, so, but it is time. This one's going to be for my grandpa. So I'm going to do my little shot for my grandpa, and then we'll get into this next story. Oh my gosh. I'm just making a big old mess. It is what it is. All right. And this one's for my grandpa. This one's for you, grandpa. Ugh. All right. So we did the first story. So we're down one. And there's 11. So we have 10 more. All right. Let's get into this next one, guys, because we're already starting off with probably a little demon girl. So what's it going to be next? The Walking Dead. I'm a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, meaning he didn't, wouldn't, couldn't talk, but there were no medical reasons. He had spoken earlier and seemed quite normal, except for being close to 7 feet tall. Oh my god. Mothman and Bigfoot. They're tall motherfuckers too, right? They're not tall. Tall's not scary usually. Anyways, back to the story. He'd been raised in the Deep South and joined the military when he was 19. But one night, he vanished. He was declared AWOL and was eventually reported missing and dead. 10 years later, a 7-foot-tall man walked into a VA hospital. A VA. I don't know what the hell the other word was, but he walked into a VA, so a veteran hospital, emergency room in my part of the Midwest and said to the receptionist, "My name is Marion Ducheny," not the real name. "I've been dead for 10 years. Shut the front door." Those were the last words he ever spoke. He was covered with dust and wearing the same clothes he'd been reported to be wearing the night he vanished. His social security number was not used, and he had no identification. However, they were able to identify him via fingerprints. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man, and that whoever claimed to be him could not be. They demanded not to be contacted again. What is wrong with them? Regardless, you'd think they'd want their family back, right? You would think that they would want their family back no matter what, even if it's to put them at peace, bury them, give them a proper burial with all the family there. I think that's appropriate, right? Maybe? I don't know. I'm just here for the ride. Oh, thank you, Drummer for Life, for the follow. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, we got to get back to the story. I'm already getting sidetracked. And we are only on the second story. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, so where were we? Where did we leave off at, guys? Well, anyways, so the night he'd vanished, his social security number was not used and he had no identification. However, they were able to identify him via fingerprints. Oh, that's where we left off. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man and that whoever claimed to be him could not be. They demanded not to be contacted again. I just find that weird. If your family member is alive, wouldn't you just be happy to have him back, right? Anyways, Marion paced every day, moving his mouth that looked like he was talking or muttering, but no sound came out. He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open, as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to listen, periodically throwing his head back in that laughter mimicking way of his. Funny. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Marion would grin, and unless told to stay put, he'd get up and start pacing again. On my last day at the job, the last thing I saw was Marion pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh. Later, I wondered if, all along, I'd been dealing with a ghost. All these years later, I still don't know. That's a that's a twist to it. So the next story, so let's see, that was 2. So this one's 3. So we're getting there. Yeah, take a little trimmer. Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How are you? Hey, do you have any scary stories you want to share with the group? Maybe. Maybe. I shared my own stories last week. I don't know if you caught that one or not. Probably not. So the last live that I did last week, I told my own little paranormal stories. And this week we're just going to read some Reddit stories because I don't have any other stories. How are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm really glad to hear you're doing so good. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I appreciate it. But I'm going to do one more shot. We're going to get into this third one. It's been a rough weekend. Can't even say it's been bad. It's just been rough. Rough. I have a lot of things dependent on for tomorrow. So I'm going to find out tomorrow if I have a new job at the dermatology office or if I'm going to be a security guard. I guess we'll find out. Such weird choices, right? Anyways, I'm going to do this. It's been a week. It's been a couple rough weeks, anyways. All right. Cheers, guys. I appreciate you guys so much for watching and joining me. I appreciate you guys. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Cheers. I appreciate you guys. Look, I got my little 4-leaf clover shot glass. I love this thing. Oh, with your band. That's awesome. Well, good. That is so good to hear. That is so cool. All right. I'm already getting hot. Only 3 shots, 3 stories. There's no way in hell I'm gonna do 11 shots, guys. I'm a lightweight. Total lightweight. Let's get into this third shot so we can get into the third story, right? Oof. Okay. Let's get into story 3. This one's called The Unrest Stop. I was driving across the country with my mom and sister when I was 16 and my sister was 20. It was late, but we were all well rested, still and alert. We were driving along in an interstate and needed gas and a bathroom break. So we stopped at the only rest stop in 200 miles. Oh, we've all been there on late night rest stops, right? God, they're the creepiest. It doesn't even matter. And I don't know about everywhere else, but here in Illinois, it seems like the rest stops are getting farther and fewer between. And I don't know what it's about because they're jacking up the prices on the tolls. So why are they taking out all the damn rest stops? World may never know, right? Makes no sense to me. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. Sorry, guys. Let's get back into the story. There was a van full of teenagers on a road trip at the gas station, and a small gray car parked at the pump in front of us, with two young men standing still outside it. When we got there, everything felt wrong. We'd been on the road for days, seen many rest stops at night, and had never been afraid until then. My mom and sister went inside, and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work, and they left in a hurry. I watched the car in front of us, and the two men had not moved. Not an inch. They weren't talking. They weren't on phones. They were just standing there, still as stone. My sister and mom came back to the car, and when they got in, the two men slowly turned to look at us, while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies. And I swear to fucking shit, I like that. I swear to fucking shit, we all saw the same thing. They had eyes dark as pitch and empty. Truly empty. It's not black, not reflecting any light at all. Just a void. We sped out of there and stopped when we were in the next city. The worst thing about the entire experience, we tried to find the place on the map. We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look, and we couldn't find it on Google Maps or any paper map we had. We even asked locals about the creepy gas station out on that stretch of road and got only confused looks. We've traveled on that interstate since. There is no rest stop. Watch out for creepy rest stops, guys. And that wasn't even probably the worst thing. The worst thing was the fucking spiders, right? Oh my god. You go into the restrooms, especially like outhouses. Outhouses are the worst. Oh my god. Every time I'm like, don't look up, Angel. Don't look up because there's going to be spiders and they're going to be like this big, right? But you know what I mean. So arachnophobia sucks. Anyways, let's get into what that was the last story is what, 3? So we're on 4? I think we're on 4, right? Right? I'm assuming. Alright, let's get into the story. It Came for Us in the Graveyard is the name of the story. Sounds interesting. We drove my friend's old beat-up Subaru through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond. Someone was sitting on a rock on the other side of the pond. The figure was black, and we couldn't make out any features other than the fact that it looked like a man wearing some old-style top hat. We stupidly waved and shouted, "Hi!" He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting still on the rock. Suddenly he jumped to his feet, started running to us on the water, and vanished into thin water about halfway through the pond. Hey, Randy, I know you're going to watch this later. There's that thin water again, right? He's going to be the only one that knows what that means. My little inside joke with him. I don't think he's watching right now, but I know he will later. That's all that matters. So, let's see, where did we leave off at? He disappeared halfway through the pond. My friends and I screamed and ran back to the car. The car wouldn't start, and we heard something banging on the back. Hold on, guys. It wasn't a constant bang, but we listened to it every few seconds. Nobody was outside from what we could see in the dark, but something was making a noise in the car. I opened my phone and started dialing my mom to give us a boost, but I had no service on there every time. None of us had any cell service. The following 30 minutes were spent trying to get the car to start. No banging was heard afterward, but we felt this heavy pressure around us. Finally, the car started, and she hit the pedal to the metal. We sped out of the graveyard so fast. Immediately crossing the gates, all of our phones regained cell service. I knew that someone or something was out there, and it was not an animal or a human. All right, so that was 4. Next story. I'm not even going to count. I'm just going to start saying next story. Give you the title. I don't think I can remember what number we're on. Just saying. And I only did 3. Such a lightweight, guys. 3. And I'm good. I feel great. How are you guys feeling? How are you doing? I got to do my checkups, right? How are you guys doing? I know it's been a rough week for everybody else too. This change in the weather has been crazy. I don't know. Anyways, don't let me get sidetracked that much, guys, because I'll do that every single time. The attention of a squirrel. That's me. So, anyways, let's get into this next story. It was good to see an old friend. What's the name of the story? I mean, it's always good to see friends, though, right? It's always good to make new friends. I love making new friends. Come join the crowd, guys. We love having new friends. Makes it interesting. You guys are probably sick of all my stories and humbuggeries, right? Anyways, let's get into this next story. When I was 37, I went to the high school reunion. I flew to the nearest airport and rented a car. The distance was about 35 miles through a very rural and almost abandoned part of the country. About 3 miles outside of town, I see someone on the side of the road flagging me down. It turned out that it was one of the guys I had attended school with. Jim, not his real name, by the way, gets in the car and we start talking. I had not seen him in 20 years, but he looked the same, maybe a little older. We get to town and I ask him if he wants to come to the VFW and have a drink. He says, "Nah, just take me home." Jim's parents lived only a few blocks from my grandmother's house, and I turned in that direction. But he said to take him to the outskirts of town. There was a mobile home park, and I figured that was where he lived. When we reached the end of the turn, he said, "Just drop me here. It was good to see you again." And he walked off into the night. I went to the VFW, met some old classmates, and started talking. As we started talking about who was coming to the reunion, I mentioned that I had just picked Jim up 3 miles east of town and dropped him off. Everyone gets quiet. Even the karaoke guy stops and lays down the mic. My cousin wears white as a new t-shirt. What does that have to do with the story? My cousin wears white as a new t-shirt. What did that have to do with the karaoke guy? Because that was the last thing they talked about. I think they're messing with me, guys. Barb. Jim died on that curve 8 years ago. He rolled his car We were all at his funeral, I was told. I started to feel dizzy and I went to the car to take some deep breaths. The local newspaper on the seat, printed 8 years previous, contained Jim's obituary. I still have that paper. Someone take Reddit away from me. I can't stop reading ghost stories. Sounds about right. That's me too. I love ghost stories, right? Let's get into the next one. It's called Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman Scorned. You know how many times I've heard that? Oh, this one's really short, so we're excited. After we moved into our home, we were told a woman had died at the hands of her abusive husband. She hated men. My dad would wake up with scratches all over himself. And whenever my brother was mean to my sister or me, he would also have scratches on him. One day, my brother hurt our sister, hitting her with something. He had a horrible bloody nose when he woke up later that night. The day we moved out, my brother accidentally broke his twin's arm, trying out a wrestling move. He swears that he could have died that night if it wasn't our last in the house. That was kind of a lame story, guys. And they bounced all over the place, like whatever. Each their own. Let's get into this next story, right? Death came for him. I stood in my parents' room, talking to my sick dad. He was dying of stage 4 esophageal cancer. I got the feeling something was behind me. I looked towards the doorway to the living room, and something about 4'6" and entirely black was peeking around the corner, with its hands on the doorframe. I ran towards it, and it slipped back around the door. When I got outside the doorway, there was nothing. My dad was perplexed when I stepped back inside the room, and I told him that people who stayed at my house in my dad's final days claimed to have seen it. My mom saw the figure on multiple occasions in multiple places until he passed away. We haven't seen it since. I don't know what prompts me to binge read Reddit true real life crime stories about twice a year, when each place I live always has some resident spirit. And that's by Dr. Fish Philosopher Todd. So anyways, let's get in this next story. You know, I have some ghost stories too. I talked about it last week in Thrills and Chills. So you guys should go check that out when you get a moment. You know, you can fast forward through all the fluff, right? Me giggling because I'm tipsy. And it's actually good. I feel good. I feel very good, guys. And I've had a lot of death and stuff going on. Especially losing my mom. That really fucked me up, losing my mom. And then losing my grandpa a month and a half later. It was like kicking me while I was still down. So it feels good to be happy. I haven't been happy in months. So, anyways, we're not gonna do another shot, but I am gonna drink my Pepsi. I'm a little thirsty. But then we're gonna get into this next story. My mother attracted evil. After my parents' divorce as a teenager, I lived with my mother. I experienced lots of paranormal happenings. Several times when I was reading in my bed, the room would feel really icy. Next, it would feel as if something or somebody that hated me was staring at me. When I got that feeling, I would leave the room and return an hour later. Sometimes during the day, I saw a shadow figure sneaking along my bedroom walls. Something in the flat was pretending to be my dog. I entered my room and heard a deep growl from under the bed. My dog wasn't capable of making a noise that deep. It sounded like either a massive dog or a man doing his best dog impersonation. Other times my dog would whimper and pace in the room next to mine, but wouldn't come when called, as if he was afraid of something in the hall. When I moved in with my father, the paranormal activity stopped. The next story is called Evicted by a Ghost. Shortly after college, I got married. We immediately moved into a basement apartment because that was all available within our budget. This place had a poltergeist, and my wife was terrified. Whatever resided there with us made it clear it wanted to live alone. Dishes, glasses, and other items would fly off the shelf. My wife was hit several times. There was always an ominous feeling like we were being watched. At night, when we walked through the apartment in the dark, highly bright flashes of light would illuminate the entire room. One night while we were going to bed, as soon as my wife and I walked into the bedroom, we heard a voice from nowhere say, it says, "My name? Move." My wife looked at me. I looked at her. I shouted, "You've got it, bud." We moved out 2 days later and stayed with family. The old lady who owned the place died a few months later, and the house was torn down. It is still an empty lot, nothing more but grass and a tree. I still drive by it now and again. The next story is called The Death March. My dad used to work as a corrections officer at a rural prison. He drove the perimeter of the property for his entire shift, where he would check empty buildings for runaway inmates. It was generally a tedious job. One night, my dad was parked on a hill reading a magazine when he started to feel a thumping in his body. He described it as a feeling you get when speakers are playing a song with hefty bass. He put the magazine down and checked his rearview mirror, where he saw someone outside the truck. He grabbed his pistol and jumped out of the truck with his weapon drawn. Outside the truck, he realized it was a procession of Native Americans walking through the truck and directly through his seat, only to disappear at the exact spot he was sitting. He said it was clear they were ghosts because many of them appeared injured. This went on for a few seconds, and then the whole procession disappeared. He called the other perimeter guy on his walkie to try to explain, and the other guy almost immediately stopped communicating. Turns out the other guy had seen this happen before, but didn't believe in ghosts, so he wouldn't talk about it. I guess that's one way to deal with it. The next story is The Demon's Room. I worked as a forensic nurse in a hospital's lockup unit. We had one older lady who swore she was being haunted and abused by a demon she would call Tiberius. So many crazy things happened while she was on the unit. We'd go into the room, do normal care, leave, and seconds later, she'd start screaming bloody murder. We'd run into the room to find her looking like she'd been in a fight with a boxing champ. Bloody lip, black eye, markings all over her body. No one ever saw her doing this stuff to herself. Things would get moved around the room by themselves. At one point, she was in protective restraints because a doctor thought she was hurting herself. There was no way she could have moved or done anything to herself while in these restraints. But new marks would always appear, or her tray or cart would be moved across the room. The room was secure, so there was no way someone else was doing this. When we asked her questions, she'd just say, "It was Tiberius." After she was discharged, we always had trouble with that room. If there was going to be a rapid response or code, it happened in that room. One night, a guard reported lights blinking on and off. It was that room. All right. So that was the last story, guys. Do you have any ghost stories that you would like to share with me or us? You can comment down below, or you can send it to angelsadventures83 at yahoo.com. I will link that down in the description box as always. And on that note, I'm gonna go take myself to bed. 3 shots kind of did me in, I'm not gonna lie. And usually I only do two, so I did three tonight to make up for not having my little girly drink too. But feeling pretty good. Not crying. That's a plus. So, anyways, I hope you guys have a great night. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.